Bridge to Wellness. Real talk, real solutions, real faith. Hey, what's up, family? And welcome to A Bridge to Wellness, the podcast where we bring real talk, real solutions, and real faith to the table. I'm Pastor Fletcher. I am pastor of historic St. Paul AME Church here in Independence, Missouri. And in addition to being a pastor, I am an admissions director and community liaison for a skilled nursing facility. Additionally, I have partnered in caregiving with my mother, caregiving for my grandparents. And so I have been walking with seniors for over a decade in this arena.
And I am Reverend Stephanie Allen, pastor of Quinn Chapel AME in Jeff City, Missouri. And like Reverend Fletch, I've been in this field for a decade plus. And that's crazy. I know that's crazy to even think about, but I have. And so my background is mental health, gerontology, and housing. And so I'm so excited to be able to do this collaboration with my friend and my brother because these are things that we're passionate about. So yeah, here we are, our brainchild. I hope y'all like it. Because the first time we recorded, it did not work out well. So here we are, take 5,000, but you're gonna be in for a treat. I promise.
That's right. And today we're going to dive into something that doesn't get enough attention, and that is mental health resources for seniors. Now, throughout these podcasts, we hope to engage and touch on some topics that are important for our mental health. But tonight we are talking about mental health resources for seniors. So now let's be real. Our elders are the backbone of our communities, right? And they're the ones who raised us. They're the ones who taught us. They're the ones who prayed for us and even laid the foundation for everything we're standing on. I mean, a lot of the etiquette and the reason why I do what I do is because my grandparents taught me.
Yeah. And the reality is that a lot of our older adults, our seniors, our seasoned saints, as I like to call them, are out here struggling. With isolation, with grief, with chronic illness, and just feeling kind of left behind. Can you imagine, like, at some point in life, you just don't feel like you can relate to anything around you? Like, you're still here living and breathing, but so much of our world is changing. And so, as the newer generation or a different generation, is our goal with these podcasts to be able to bring everybody along the journey, that we might talk about something as sensitive but as important as mental health, because our older adults are still valued.
That's right. They're valued. And we're not just talking theory today. We're bringing our experiences, our faith, and some practical tools that are going to help you support the seniors in your life.
Okay. You talking that good talk. I'm glad you got your water. You ready to get into it? Cause you in the hot seat, Reverend Fletcher. You ready?
Here we go.
Okay. So my first question for you is, in your years of experience as being a caretaker and now serving in the role of a missions coordinator, counselor, whatever you said that title is very important. But in that role, what are you seeing that our seniors are facing and kind of dealing with within your area?
Good question, Pastor Stephanie. I mean, it's heavy. A lot of our seniors feel like life has moved on without them. And oftentimes, the skilled nursing facilities have developed that stigma because of the seniors when they admit to the facility. Some of them feel that they're being left there to die and that they will never see their family or friends ever again. And so seniors feel like life has moved on without them, and they're dealing with grief. They're grieving friends, they're grieving spouses, and even their independence. And when I say they're grieving friends, not only the friends that they have probably grown up with throughout the years, but even when they get into the facility and develop friendships, it's often that a lot of the residents, they'll pass on before the new resident has had the time to truly develop the relationship. And so they feel lost and left out. And again, like I said, it's even their independence. You know, who would feel some kind of way if you lost everything that you were capable of doing? If you could not control your bowels and you needed assistance to get clean, just imagine having to wait for somebody to come and clean you simply because you're at a facility where you can't take care of it on your own. And in these facilities, we're often short staffed because of the lack of persons who truly want to do the work and care for the residents. But nevertheless, the residents have to wait to be tended to. And so sometimes that could be uncomfortable, that could be frustrating, that could be irritating, it could be depressing because they're thinking about the things that they have lost the capability of doing. And let's not forget the health issues. You got chronic illnesses that make even getting out of bed a challenge.
That's some tough stuff. Um, because what it sounds like, it requires a level of vulnerability. It requires a level of trusting a complete stranger to now be your caretaker. And I think it's also important to point out the setting in which you're in as a skilled nursing facility. And so those things happen there, right? Um,
Absolutely.
I think it's important that we know there are different types of housing. There's independent, semi independent, group homes. There are those that are senior living facilities, because there are some senior living facilities that are very nice. Like, I'm telling you, like, I'm trying to go there tomorrow. You mean y'all gonna feed me and I don't have to cook? Man,
Right.
y'all
Gourmet
need, man, y'all
meals.
please sign me up. Like, I'm ready to go now. Every anyway, I would go down a whole rabbit hole. But thinking about some of those places, no matter how nice they are, comes with their own thing, come with isolation and inability to kind of connect in different ways. And that often is a struggle. Research is telling us that isolation has the same effect that 15 cigarettes does to the
What?
body.
My God.
Right, because it leads to different things. So imagine us being in a pandemic for 12 years, it felt like. But the years that we spent within the pandemic and the isolation that people feel, or now we're having the snowstorms and the fires and all of these things, and you have that fear, that worry, and the stress and the strain that that's putting on to your body. So we have to be mindful of those things and having these conversations to bring it to the forefront. And then, if we're also being honest, we know that the disparities that we face just as people um, is intensified as it relates to the Black and minority communities. That when you layer those things, like, it really can get thick, and you're carrying this weight on your shoulder. You're having this disconnection where you grew up in a world that don't look like the world you grew up in anymore. It
That's
feels like, okay, life is passing you by, technology is on the rise, friends and family are, going to do their own thing, and so now it's just you and you by yourself.
right. And let's not forget, can we talk about how our culture sometimes brushes off mental illness or
Oh yeah.
mental health? There's this idea that Big Mama or Big Papa is supposed to just keep on pushing no matter
Right.
what they're dealing with. But the truth is that they need care too, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so we have to break the stigma in the church about mental health and things of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. You said a whole lot. You took the words right out of my mouth, Reverend Fletcher. You took the words right out of my mouth, that we're not in the same time, that grief does require transitional times and trying to move through that. I think you mentioned just about how we're struggling and how we're trying to move through this, and just because I feel a particular way don't mean I'm not faithful, and don't believe that I don't believe in God. Sometimes we think we could pray. Okay, let me say it the right way. Prayer works.
Right.
Prayer is wonderful. It's a great lifeline, a connection to God. But you know what also works? therapy. A good conversation. While you calling up Jesus, make sure you call that therapist next and see what they talking about it. If they got an appointment or something for us. Um,
That's right.
but so as we navigate this, we know that having connectedness with our seniors is important because they carry stories, they carry experiences, they carry life lessons. I'm gonna tap you in. I see you got something there, but they're carrying all of these things. So how do we address that to make our seniors feel supported, to feel like that their stories are still worth telling? Because I've come across older adults that are like, oh well, I ain't gonna tell them nothing. Nobody want to listen to me no way. How do we make them feel supported?
That's a good question because I like to say that I'm a unique individual. And one of the things that I absolutely enjoy doing as a pastime was sitting and talking with the elders,
Mm.
and like my home church, First AME, Kansas City, Kansas. Give us a shout out. You know what I'm saying? That's the home team.
Not too much. Shout out to my home church, St. John AME on the Kings Highway. The pastor now is Reverend Beverly Stiff. Hey girl, hey.
But I'm just saying though, I grew up. My parents divorced at the age of 5, and so my mom sent me to Kansas City, and I grew up with my grandmother. Well, I'd say for about a year, but I was on my grandmother's hip like it was no game. I would go be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, help set in the altar and all that. And I just had this passion. And every time we went to meetings, stewardess board meetings and Sunday school, we pick up the other elders on riding in the car, and then I just sitting in the back and just be listening to the stories, and just it was natural for me. So then when I got to high school, my school was literally walking distance to the church, to my home church, and I say it'd probably be like a 5-minute walk. And I would always go up there just to talk to the church secretary, my BFF's grandmother. I would just go up and just sit and talk with her and have conversations and inquire. I would really be engaged, and I would ask questions, and they saw the light in my eyes when I just was engaged with them. Or even when I did move back finally to Kansas City, I would still make my visits to my senior couples everywhere. I'd go sit with them at the house. For hours, literally, like maybe like 2 hours, and we just be talking about all those kind of things. And so I think engaging with our seniors and showing them that you care gives them hope that, okay, I'm just not here talking to myself, or it's going one ear and out the other. And I think it's deep. And it's a reminder that our elders aren't just sitting on the porch watching the world to go by, but they are carrying these stories, they're carrying these lessons and experiences that can help us navigate life if we take the time just to listen.
Just to listen. And you mentioned something. We got to come out them houses, y'all. I know our houses have become our comfort zone, but there's so much in the world to experience. Like, I'm always on Eventbrite, and my brother will tell you, he'll send me links and things to go just socialize, go join a new club. There are organizations that literally host day programs and things to help combat the isolation. And so going to places where you're amongst your peers, older adults, senior saints, come on now. There are places where you could go and you could do senior fitness or water aerobics, playing chess, listening to music. Because believe it or not, music is a real form of therapy, music therapy that you may not always, in working with people with dementia, you may be having a conversation with them and trying to trigger and stimulate their memory. You may be getting absolutely nothing. But you play a song from a particular time period, and now all of a sudden they're able to tell you what they had on, what kind of ice cream they had, who bought the ice cream, where they went, how, just enjoying themselves. And for a snapshot of a moment, you see life in that person. And so that's the beauty of, as I mentioned earlier, therapy, but just the beauty of socialization. And so I think that the church got can increase in areas of support like that, to have support groups to address isolation, to address health concerns, to address just things that we face in this life so that we don't think that we're alone.
Yeah.
Because I think that can be the most difficult part, is that you feel like you're enduring things by yourself.
Right.
And the truth is that the more you talk about it, you realize everybody got something going on.
Every-
At least I do. I appreciate my friends in my group chats, because I can get in a group chat and be like, "Oh, this is going on." They be like, "You too." So I'm trying to tell y'all get y'all a group chat.
That's it. That's it. And the first thing we've got to do is when we support our seniors is consistency, right? We got to show up.
Say that again.
Consistency.
Consistency.
Consistency is the key. Shared this story before with I rotated in watching my or visiting my grandfather like 2 days out of the week during the weekday and once on the weekend. And so I had to remain consistent because he was dealing with dementia. Not only was he dealing with dementia, but he was dealing with loneliness and feeling abandoned. And so I had to be consistent when I visited him every 2 days out the week. After, as soon as he finished with lunch, meet him in his dining in the dining room, and we had that conversation. And I'll come 5 minutes late. He would still be sitting there because he knew that I was coming after lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so
Mhm.
consistency is the key, whether it's visiting, whether it's calling, or just sitting and listening. These small moments of connection matter.
Definitely. And repetition breeds memory. It's
That's it.
something that is, essential to continue to go over something, to continue to do it. When I was in school, my geography teacher always said that repetition breeds memory. I didn't remember the geography part of it. I remember that repetition breeds memory. So I guess something something was working. But like you said, that consistency to be able to spend time with your grandfather, and how can we duplicate that, right? So we're looking in ways to have it applied. It's simple as in explaining how to do particular things, especially I think like technology is probably a great place to start, where younger generations can show different generations how to use these different modes and modalities, because it's not like they don't know how to communicate, but this form of communication is different. It's not a typewriter. Now it's a iPhone in your hand. And so
Right.
it makes me think about when we were at General Conference, and we were going to get some resources and stuff out at the voting bus, and they had it all on a QR code. That's how you sign in. And so you have this line of seniors who were just standing there because they didn't know what to do. And they kept saying, scan your QR code and log in, then you could come up. And so finally, I just asked them if they needed help and showed them how to do it. And they're like, well, nobody, they kept saying the QR code. All I see is a block here on my screen. So just taking that time, and who knows what impact that made. I don't didn't know the person from a can of paint, but they may have gone home and say somebody spent some time with me.
Right.
And I didn't feel like everybody was passing me by, but those intimate moments.
Yeah. And we gotta bridge those generations. So
Absolutely.
when they're partnering with each other, young adults are partnering with seniors
Hmm.
just to help them, but to also for our young adults, we could still learn from our seniors.
Of
And
course.
I think that's powerful because let's be honest, we need their wisdom just as much as they need our energy. And that's the beauty of the intergenerational connections
Hmm.
is that it's mutual.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You ain't gotta. I don't have to touch the stove. You told me it was hot yesterday. It was gonna be hot today. Like I don't. I don't really. I've never been that type of person that's just like, oh, I gotta figure it out for my own. No, if somebody that I can align with, has told me that this is the way, and it makes sense to me, then yeah, let's explore that, because we don't have to recreate the wheel.
That's it.
It was already done. The foundation is laid. Now we're just enhancing and building on it. And so when we talk about having that connectedness and we talk about having those intimate moments, I think it's something also that we cannot forget as we're talking about wellness and being whole. We can't forget our caregivers.
Amen.
Our caregivers are the real hero. Let's give a round of applause.
Please.
I was thinking of another song, but amen. Our care. Oh, okay, real quick. All right. Our caregivers are the heroes that don't have the capes that you see.
Yeah.
They are being able to support their loved one, their friend, or whomever it may be. They're taking them to doctor's appointments, making sure they get their medications as they are prescribed. But a lot of times it's a thankless job, and you're dealing with your person when they are probably at what they may consider the lowest points of their life, and they're fighting you when you're the one who is there. And
Yeah.
that is a feeling that just feels like, dang, I'm here because I love you, and I won't respond to you how I want to because I love you, but
Right.
you're making it very hard right now. And so this is just a moment to recognize our caregivers and the efforts in which they put forward, and understanding that they need rest too.
Exactly.
So in ways in which we are able to support them, we should. So that could look like a phone call, or look like going to sit with them if you know their loved one, or the person that they're caring for, and it's all right with them. Let the caregiver go get their nails done, or go get a haircut, or whatever it is, just for a moment to be able to breathe. It goes a long way. It
I love
goes a long way.
that is so just you hit it right on the spot because like I witnessed it and with my mom who was a caregiver and I was her relief.
Mm-hmm.
I was the one who relieved her because none of the other siblings lived in the area. And I wasn't a selfish son, thanks be to God. I didn't want to just live my life and not have to deal with staying with some seniors, but I valued that. And because I loved my grandparents, I was like, absolutely, because I loved my mother, I didn't want to see her stressed out. I don't want her dying earlier than uh, than she plans, to what I'm trying to say,
Yeah, I got
because
you.
of the stress and everything that deals with it. And like you said, they take the brunt of what some seniors, they're tired in life and they're angry about certain things, and they unfortunately take it out on their caregivers when they didn't have anything to really do with it, but that their caregiver is there to love and support them. So yes, a shout out to the caregivers because it is a thankless job, it is a tough job, but you can tell it's a sincere job. uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and the church can be that that tool. Um, the church can be the place of refuge for seniors and caregivers.
Okay. Yeah, be the place that they're able to go. And I think that maybe that's what we need to recognize, is that there's a thing when you were speaking about your mom and kind of your role that you're playing. It made me think of the term being a sandwich, which is that your mom was caring for her parents, then it was her, then she's caring for her children. And essentially, care for your mom, then you and your child, you just sandwiched in between. And a lot of times we forget about the in between. We're worried about what we put on other sides, but that thing that's in the middle sometimes is forgotten. And so I think that as a church, and I don't just speak for individual church, I mean the collective, as believers, we have to begin to embrace one another.
Yeah,
We know that people are dealing with things, but it's easy to move past it because it's not us. But one day it may be us in that position. And so those the ways in which we can be able to support is ask what is needed, because we assume that we know,
mm,
but what is it that's needed, and then actually make those accommodations to be able to aid that person. And I think that, as you said, having the energy to do so, to be able to create the change. So we're listening to the older adults, the seasoned saints that are
Mm,
saying this is what we need to feel still connected to the church. Then these, because we have the energy to do so, we ought to do so. I,
right.
I think it's simple. Now, everybody don't get along always. And, at a certain point in life, I would like to think that I'm there some days. You be setting your ways. But at the end of the day, when the day has got to end, um, we're working in this thing together. And
That's it.
so it is being able to support one another. And that's what the church is, the cornerstone. It's the place where you could go to receive resources, or Sunday school taught so many kids how to read and how to public speak because you had the Easter Day speech and all of these things that we had. And so it's important. The church is important.
That's right. And we got to meet the needs of this generation. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you preaching there, Reverend Stephanie, and it starts with breaking this stigma around mental health,
Yeah.
because we are so too often we treat it like it's a faith issue. Like, you're not praying enough if you're struggling. Uh, but see, God gave us people and professions like therapists and doctors and counselors for a reason. God, we didn't create these positions just because. And a lot of us in the church are in these positions. However, when it comes to the church and mental health, we like to turn the other cheek and make it seem like therapy is not necessary. And so, I mean, they're here for a reason.
Right. Yeah, and I think sometimes we just fear what we don't know. We fear the unknown. Therapy isn't new, but it's new to us as a community. And so, where you were saying if we're praying, then or we're struggling, but I'm struggling to pray.
Right.
So, I'm struggling to pray because life is tough.
It
And
is.
nothing about this thing is easy. If we're gonna be honest, if we're gonna keep it honest, nothing about life is easy. Even when you think you got it figured out, it changes on you, and you think you at the marker, and the marker is moving. And
Well,
so, the way in which, as I keep saying, the church can support is that if we know that there are those that are grieving, we know that the holiday season is the one of the toughest times.
yeah,
Why not offer support groups during that time? Well,
yeah.
let's be proactive instead of just reactive. Something happens and I'm like, well, I ain't even know. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You knew they were
You do.
struggling. So let's be proactive, or creating groups, support groups that address our health, having health fairs and things, addressing diabetes, addressing hypertension, and things that plague us as a community, so that we can continue to live well. No need to ignore it. You could keep sweeping it under the rug. You could keep acting
Mm,
like it's not there, but it will continue to present itself. And the evidence that something is wrong is when our children have become affected by our doings.
mm.
We didn't put the support and things in place for them. Nobody comes out the womb knowing how to tie their shoe. They're taught how to tie their shoe. So no one can learn how to make it through this life. They're taught and given the skills. Let us go in our toolbox and pull out some tools and some skills.
That's right. And let's not overlook the small things when it
Right.
comes to including our seniors, like creating this a welcoming environment for our seniors. As we know, I mean, when it comes to creating a welcoming environment for seniors, every detail matters. And sometimes we don't think about those things, especially in a church setting where they are often the pillars of faith and wisdom in the congregation. So looking at the things like ramps and handrails and comfortable seating with good back support, because you're dealing with our elders, our restrooms accessible. Let's talk about lighting and acoustics, because
Mm-hmm.
seniors often have vision or hearing difficulties. Some may be overpowering to their senses. A common thing that I'm seeing nowadays in the churches is the revamp of the pulpit and how they're incorporating these LED screens, and it's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like I'm old head at heart because I just see bright colors and just I feel like I'm at a concert and there's strobe lights and you see these big letters and I mean it reminds me of a concert. But can it be overpowering for our seniors in a worship experience where they're coming to feel a place of reverence and worship, and they often may feel that they don't feel that worship effect when they come to something like that that's renovated and things of that nature. So I think it's critical that we consider what we bring to the table when we implement new things in the church as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember being at a concert at a church, and I love I love a good high praise. Me, the louder the drums, the better for me. But that's for me. One of the members, she was like she had to turn her hearing aid down, and then got to turn it up when the preacher get up to preach. Or as you mentioned, the LED screens. They're wonderful. God gonna bless my church with some one day. But until then, just even the brightness that is coming through. We're talking about persons who may have cataracts or glaucoma or have had surgeries, and just imagine like that their visibility is already limited, and from what they can see now is these bright lights and all these sensory things. Or even if we're talking about our screens that are up, is the font large enough that they can see them? Because we're getting away from, we're trying to save the trees so we
Right,
don't have bulletins, and we got it up on the screen, but the font, are we trying to save the screens too because the font too small? And
right,
so large print Bible, so that they're able to follow along, because the goal is that while we're enhancing worship experience, we don't want to diminish it for a particular group.
amen.
um, because we want everyone that when they come in they feel valued. And so I think like the tricky part of it is trying to find that balance of, you
Yeah,
know give a little here, move a little here, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, we know that this group wants this, but this age group needs this in order to be able to enjoy. Because I'm not going to say that older adults don't enjoy the glitz and the glam, because they
absolutely.
like those LED screens. They help pay for them screens to get there,
Right.
so they
You
like
got a
it.
few.
But we
Yeah.
just gotta adjust the dimming, the light of it, or something like that. So.
That's almost like it's interesting you say that because this is a little side piece. I won't say any names, but there was a certain Episcopal district that when they presented their conferences and their meetings, they created this environment to almost where it was. You saw a lot of more theatrics. There were dim lights, and all the focus was on stage. And
Mhm.
then there was an attempt for it to be implemented in another district who hadn't really used the dimming of the lights, and the lights were focus was on the stage. And so they decided, okay, we're going to dim the lights in worship and just make the stage the focus with the spotlight. And all you heard was, this district of folks complaining that it was too dark in the in the sanctuary. The lights needed to be on, and people couldn't see the bulletins and stuff. So that district reacted accordingly, and all the lights were bright, and everything was back up on the in house. So I mean, it's you have to be open to your congregation and the different levels, because certain things work in certain places, and
And you
and
got to try it,
you
because
got to try
how
it.
do you know? Now you get the lights too dim, I'm going to sleep. I'm a rest in the Lord. But how do you know unless you try it? So shout out to
Exactly.
y'all for being innovative.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So the challenge, brother Pastor Stephanie, we got a challenge going on.
Oh, thank you for my cue. I was waiting for you to say your line so I could say my line. No, so the challenge is this. It's simple. So we're on this 21-day fast, and shout out to Reverend Fletcher for even the idea of this fast, this collaboration, this opportunity to be here. And so we're focusing for the week of how can we engage the older adults, the seniors, the seasoned saints in our life. How can you go out of your way, not just you're thinking about them. Your thoughts are great, but your calls are better. So how can we call? How can we? Some might be up to date enough to text or a stop by visit or sending out a card. I know there's inclement weather in a few places throughout the country. Can you send them a meal or even just to remind them that you're thinking about them? Because I feel like we have to. We have to step outside of what our comfort is to continue to engage, because especially since we've pointed out that isolation is a thing, we can't ignore it. And so it's now time to do something about it.
Amen. And for my church leaders out there, what can your ministry do intentionally to serve seniors?
Mm.
Like whether it's starting a new program or just listening to their needs, it all makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think that there are also plenty of organizations in which we can partner with and do collabs with that are already in existence.
Exactly.
And find one. Find one that aligns with your congregation and what God is telling you to do and partner with them. You'd be amazed with the resources and the access and people who've already been working in the particular areas. They're looking for places to come and to share in this capacity. And so, just a reminder, our seniors are not a burden. They are not something that is, heavy for us. They are a blessing. They
Amen.
come with their stories. They come with their wisdom. They come with their nagging. But
Oh,
I kid,
we
I
love
kid,
it.
I kid. Whether we consider it to be nagging or whether we consider it to be been there, done their moments, we should still embrace it,
Amen.
because we only pass through this life one time that I know of. I ain't made it to the other side, so I don't quite know. But I do know that we don't come back this way. And so while we have one another, let us love on each other. Let us embrace one another and let us continue to move together as we do this work in the kingdom together.
Amen. And I want to give a shout out to my one of my associates, Reverend Dr. Margarita Smith Narcisse, who was inspired when I was appointed to Historic St. Paul to create or establish an older adult ministry. And I think that's one of the best things that has been implemented at Historic St. Paul since I've been there, because they going on day dates and everything while I'm sitting at work, struggling, trying to keep myself sane. And I just enjoy the fact that they're enjoying each other and the time, and they're being active. And so they really appreciated that ministry was established. And so I just want to give a shout out to Reverend Dr. MSN, who I affectionately call, for establishing that older adult ministry.
Yes, because they helped me to be inspired to reach retirement, so I too can have day parties and
Yeah.
enjoy myself. Praise God, from whom our blessings flow. But we just want to say thank you for joining us on this Thursday. I pray that God continues to cover each and every one of you. And until the next time we see each other, peace out.
Peace. Next week.
See y'all.